Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Light on C++ programming. So in this tutorial we're going to be learning something called arrays. So in the previous tutorials we were creating a variable and we were storing the data in that variable. So if you wanted to store one value, then you need to create a variable. Similarly, if you want to store 3 values, then you need to create 3 variables, and if that size increases, then you need to create more and more variables. But that's not the convenient way of programming. So to solve that kind of problems in C++, we have something called arrays. So this array is nothing but the collection of similar elements. For example, if you guys want to store the marks, and also let's assume that you have to store the marks of 6 subjects. At that time, if we were creating the variables like we are doing in the previous tutorials, then we need to create 6 variables to store 6 subject marks. But here we have something called arrays. By using this array under one name, we can store 6 values. So in other words, we can say that our array is nothing but the collection of similar elements, which is nothing but in this array we can store similar elements, for example integers or the chars, but make sure that all the elements that you are storing must be of same type. So this array elements or the values which are stored in these arrays will be stored in continuous memory locations, and these arrays are going to start from 0, or the index of this array start from 0, and it will be 1 less than the size. For example, if you're storing 6 elements, then the index will start from 0 to 5. Okay, now we're gonna see how to use these arrays in our program. Now to create an array in our program, first we need to type or specify the type of data will be stored in that array, or the data type. In this tutorial, for the demonstration purpose, we're going to store the marks, which is of type integers, and that's why it's going to be int. Next, the name of the array. So similar to the variable name, here let's say marks. And then you guys need to use 2 square brackets, and between these square brackets you need to specify the length of the array, or how many elements you want to store in this array. So here in this example we want to store the marks of 6 subjects, that's why the length or the size of this array is 6, and then add a semicolon. So here we are declaring an array which is of size 6. So the next thing is how to store the values in this array. To assign the values to the array elements, what we can do is we can initialize this array when declaring it. To do that, we need to use this assignment operator. Then between these curly braces we need to write the elements. For example, the marks of 6 subjects, let's say 55, 45, 75, 85, 95, and let's say 35. So here the number of elements you write must not be greater than the size specified. If it is more than that, then the compiler is gonna generate some errors. The next thing is how to access the elements of an array. To access the elements of an array, we need to write the array name, which is marks in this case, and then the square brackets, and between these square brackets we need to write the index. I told you before that in arrays the elements are stored from the index 0 like that. So the first element will be at the index 0, the second element will be at the index 1, third element at the index 2. Similarly, the 6th element will be at the index 5. So here if you guys wanted to access the third element, then you guys need to specify the index as 2. And I'm going to use a cout statement to print out that. So it's going to be cout and marks of index, which is 2. I'm going to save this, build and run this. So you guys can see 75, which is the third element present in the second index. And the next thing is, instead of initializing the array here, so what we can do is we can initialize them separately after the declaration. Here marks and then the square brackets, then the index 0, then the value, let's say 55, and similarly marks 1, 45, like that. And here also same thing, 1, save it, build and run it, you can 45. And the next thing is, now if you want to assign or initialize the array when declaring it, then this equal to symbol or this assignment operator is not necessary. So we guys can directly write like this, and this one is also valid. I'm gonna save it, build and run this. So 55, you guys can see the second element. And the next thing is, if you are initializing the array when declaring it, then specifying this size is not necessary, so we can leave it as it is. So we can leave it. So when we do like this, the number of element we specify here will be the size of this array, and which will be automatically computed by the compiler. So I'm gonna save it, build and run this, 55. Alright guys, this is it. This is about the introduction to the arrays. Arrays are nothing but the collection of similar elements, and these arrays are going to help us to store the similar values under one name. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next tutorial.